Yeah, regularly fighting, right? Yeah, hi. That's just for those who don't know. We're here with the Clarendon Fire Department. I'm also a member of the Democrats. Thank everybody for coming. Miserable, but thanks for coming out. Democrats, we put this together. We really wanted to try to bring the community together in a non-partisan way. And have somebody come and help us understand what's going on at that level and the state level. And how that may impact both positively and negatively to residents of the state. So we're lucky enough to March. He becomes we're gonna have a great presentation. I want to point out the emergency exits are there, back there. There's also another exit over here. So hopefully we won't need to use those. And also just want to make a pitch. I'm not a member of the fire department. So we don't have anybody here except Billy. We're looking for help, Larry. Actually, have a lot of members here. But we always need more. No day. But we need more. So anybody can help our department. Got a great group of people right now, and we're doing really things. So I'm happy to have. Okay. Yes. With that, the hand over the notes and say a few words. No.
Just want to thank everybody, reiterate Paul's words, thanks everybody. Keep it non-political, and we have March Gallagher, second term, Ulster County Comptroller, county over $16 million. So, really appreciate taking your time. That's awesome. So, thank you, March Gallagher, Ulster County Comptroller.
Thank you so much, David. And I want to also thank the Clarendon Fire Department, not just the commissioner, but the whole team. You know, first responders really are what keeps us safe, and really appreciate your service. Thank you to the fire department for hosting. I want to acknowledge the people that we have in the room. First of all, I have my deputy controller here, Charles Dinsko. At the break, when we break, I'd like, if you're interested, to take the opportunity to help you see of unclaimed funds. Controllers funds in your name that have been unclaimed, we can help you get those monies back. We also have a representative from Congressman Josh Riley's office. Eric Hall is here. Thank you, Eric, for coming. You know, we're hosting a Zoom. I want to acknowledge everybody who's in the Zoom and thank them for coming. Let's hear this district captain is on the Zoom, and she's watching this meeting, so she'll hear your questions and our conversation. And then we also have the Denning Town Board here. I want to extend my greatest appreciation to Supervisor Brooks. You know, we've been working on some projects together, so you're going to hear a little bit about that. We also have Mike Dean, Kevin Smith, Greg Verkey, and Scott Michelson here. So thank you guys so much for coming today. I really appreciate it. I heard a rumor that we might get some folks from Everson. Is there anyone from Everson here? All right. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you coming to hear what we have to say about Ulster. And I did do a little lookup on some Everson numbers, so I'll share those tonight. And then also I want to acknowledge that we have in the room with us YMCA, Frost Valley, and we have Riel Beerbooms and Tom Colzapple here. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming. And finally, my last acknowledgement is that we have the general manager of Margaretville Telephone, Faulkner, and Steve here. Thank you guys for coming. So I was asked by some constituents in Denning if I would come talk about a report that we published back in the fall on federal funding. And I think, you know, at the time that we did that, we were anticipating a change in Washington, but we wanted to just get a measure of how much federal money is coming into Ulster County so that we would know kind of what there is on the line, and also not just what comes through county government, but what comes through other governments in Ulster County and has benefits to Ulster County residents. And I'm going to share a little bit of information with you about that tonight. This is kind of how the agenda will go. It's a little bit loose, but I'm going to share materials from the report. We're going to talk a little bit about a proposed broadband project for Denny. I'm probably going to acknowledge Mark at that time. Mark will talk about because they're the ones championing that project. Then we'll move into talking about sort of the future, which will include also talking about federal cuts that are coming down the pipe, both from the reconciliation bill and what we anticipate from the appropriation side. And really my goal here is to make sure that residents of Denny, elected officials of Denny know what's on the line. And then I'm going to propose some things that I think we all do to make sure some of these projects happen, the things that we think are important. So we'll open it up at the end for questions and answers, and we'll be also responding to questions that come in on this Zoom. So that'll be sort of over the night. And I won't look for all night. I usually say anything over than an hour's waste of time. So we're going to get the speed part done, you know, in short order. But I'm going to take you through, and I have Dave here to be my security. So, hold on one second. I'm going to take you there first. Oh, of course, it's not. Okay, here we go. So over the last 6 years, you can see that Ulster County itself, the Ulster County government has, you know, had about $50 million in federal funding each year. Is there a question? Oh, you're saying hi. Okay. You can see in 2022 there was a dip, and we believe that's because we had a change in our finance team.
You have to turn your microphone off, which is feeding back, and I can hear another question.
If I turn my microphone off, people want to.
Oh, that's right.
This laptop, is that?
Turn your speaker off sometime. Okay, sir. Maybe turn.
Nope, they're on. They're mic is off. I still hear a little bit back out. You can hear it too. All right, we'll just proceed. No one's complaining online, so it must be fine. So we had to change our finance team in 2023, and that's when we do all the accounting back to 2022. And we think that's why this actually measures not just how much money we received, but how much we spent. How much federal money we spent. I want to give you a breakdown of what that is.
Go into settings and turn the speaker down. No, the speaker down.
Oh, I see what you're saying. There we go.
Yeah.
Just give me a second.
It gets annoying.
There we go. How's that? Good thing they never say your house. You know how to use Zoom and never say okay, in case you were wondering. All right. So out of the money that Ulster County gets from the federal government, you can see about half of that money is in the health and human services area. And I'm going to get into a little bit more discussion of what that is. We also received, or spent, I should say, in 2023, $9.7 million in ARPA funds. We received a total of $34 million in ARPA funds. 6.6 million in transportation, and you can see a variety of other programs, labor, justice, homeland security. It's not really that much in other area, and I think once ARPA is done being spent, the second biggest item after health and human services really will be transportation, and that's not a surprise when you think about transportation funding. So now health and human services, we want to say, like, what is that? $11 million of social services money that we receive, the health and human services money, is temporary assistance to needy families, otherwise known as TANF. These are direct payments to families in need, helping support them pay their bills, buy food, pay for shelter, etc. The next large area is foster care. I'm not going to take the whole thing, but I wanted you to see there's a small portion of Medicaid that comes through here that is administrative services for Medicaid. And you can see sort of the litany here that adds up to that amount of Health and Human Services dollars. And I'll just tell you that we've been looking through sort of what's proposed in the upcoming appropriations bills that will be discussed. And
You can't see the graphics.
No, I'm screen sharing.
I can see the graphic, but I think we're one slide behind. We've got the pie charts.
What are these?
Stop sharing.
Yeah.
Share your screen.
I was able to, oh, I don't know who can hear me, but I was able to see the slides. It's Rakas in the chat is saying.
It does seem to have stopped sharing your presentation.
Yeah.
How about now?
Now I can see it.
All right. Every problem can be solved. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we have a good idea of what federal funds Ulster County has spent, but what we have not been able to determine yet is exactly which of these categories are on the chopping block going forward. We know some of them, and I will get into that in a few minutes, but we do not know all of them. So we're, you know, and it's not decided yet. We have the reconciliation bill done, but we don't have next year's federal budget completed yet. So that's going to take time for us to sort through. I want to talk for a second about all of the benefits that come into Ulster County. This is not just what comes to the county government itself, but what comes into Ulster County in terms of federal funding total. Wow, I've never had such a challenging Zoom experience, but here we go. So you can see around $50 million, 50.8 million. This is 2023 numbers for the most part. In some cases, we had to go back to 2022 to get complete data. In addition to the money that comes from Ulster County government, we also see $8.7 million in HEAP. That's Home Energy Assistance Program. That's for low-income Ulster County residents. SNAP, that's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, $46.6 million in 2023. Food stamps. Medicare, over 600 million. And Medicaid, over 600 million. We don't really think about it like that. You know, I was worried about Social Security. You can see it down here. It's a huge number. You guys, there are 43,000 Ulster County residents who receive Social Security. And when I knock doors and when I talk to constituents, I have a lot of people who are worried about Social Security. We have not seen discussion about cuts for real to Social Security. I want you to know that, because I think it's really important that we separate myth from fact when we're talking about what's happening with federal changes. Otherwise, we're going to get upset about things that aren't true, and that is not going to help us when we want to advocate for ourselves or speak about the problems that we're really facing. Okay. In addition to Social Security, you can see cities, towns, and villages all together combined $14.8 million. Denning received $0 federal dollars in 2023. They had received ARPA previously, but I just want you to know, if you don't have it coming in, you're not going to lose it, right? If you have nothing, you have nothing to lose. Neversink, on the other hand, I know we have a couple people from Neversink, did receive $278,000 in federal funds in their they expended $278,000 in their 2023 budget. It was ARPA funds. That was our theory. But we were wondering why you got so much more ARPA than they got, and I'll have to follow up with you on that.
What is ARPA?
ARPA is the American Rescue Plan Act. Yep. And that was a COVID program that was rolled out that provided funding to every municipal government and many other agencies as well. Ulster County received $34 million of ARPA funds, and it really did help counties and municipalities sort of stabilize and not have to raise taxes during that time period. Yeah. School districts received around $51 million. That school district money is heavily influenced by ARPA funds. So it was bumped up by COVID. If you look in a regular year, and I had many superintendents calling me going, we don't get that much money. I said, yeah, but you did in 2023. Oh yeah, that's true. The bottom line though, is when you grow a budget like that, when you have a revenue coming in that expands like that, you do have to be ready to see a contraction. And I think that is going to be hard. That contraction going away, losing ARPA funds or having ARPA funds be passed in the past is going to affect us no matter what happened with this federal budget. So I want to talk about the one big, beautiful bill, otherwise known as a billionaire bailout to me. That's the way it looks to me, but I'm going to just talk about some things in that are good. Okay. Because we spent a lot of time talking about how upset we are. And I want you to know there are some aspects of this legislation that are good for New Yorkers, that are good for us. It's going to raise the SALT cap from $10,000 to $40,000. That's state and local taxes. You're double taxed on that money. You get to exclude that. And, years ago, they reduced the exclusion only to $10,000. Now you'll have $40,000. Now, many of us are not paying that much, and it will benefit wealthy New Yorkers more. But I think it's important to recognize this is something that the New York delegation really wanted and received. We're going to see an increase in the child tax credit of a couple $100s, and we're going to see a lot of changes to personal income tax deductions. And I worked with my deputy, who's a CPA, on this. And these are some things that are really good for us. Increases to the standard deduction. You're going to be able to have an above the line deduction for charitable contributions at higher than $1,000. Deductions for car loan interest, deductions for tips. Look, some of these provisions expire. I'm not saying these are permanent. I'm just trying to acknowledge what good things will happen immediately. Deductions for overtime up to $12,500. And there's a $50 billion rural hospital fund. Now, Supervisor, if you need to go to the hospital, where are you going from here?
Ellenville or Harris?
Ellenville or
Harris.
I am very concerned, and I will get into this, about rural hospitals. And I want you to know this $50 billion fund is a drop in the bucket. Kaiser Family Foundation is estimating that hospitals are going to take a $137 billion hit with this legislation. So I appreciate that something was put in here to help our hospitals. I hope our local hospitals can make good on it, and I think they will do their best to access it, but we do not have confidence that this is going to avoid problems in hospital and nursing home settings, and I will explain more of that in a few minutes. I want to talk first about the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. We are going to have more responsibility in Ulster County for shouldering the cost of administration. Right now, we split with the state a portion of it. So that is fine. However, the federal government is going to shift even more of their responsibility to us. And the way state law is currently drafted, that is going to come directly to the county. It will not stop on the state doorstep. It will flow to the county's responsibility. We believe that that is going to be a $738,000 a year annual impact. I know that doesn't sound like that much right now, but it is also because of our error rate, we are going to have more responsibility in New York State for providing the actual SNAP benefits. Right now, we don't provide anything. It's 100% federally funded. And it makes sense to me, you guys, I'm in the business of government efficiency. That's what we want to do. We want county government and all government to be as efficient as possible. So I understand why you might say, if you guys are making a lot of mistakes in your errors in your eligibility, we want you to take more responsibility, sort of a carrot and stick approach, right? However, what you need to realize is that during COVID, the federal government told the states, don't worry about your error rate. Don't worry about it. Just get SNAP out to whoever needs it. We want to make sure people are fed. Unfortunately, that combined with a massive exodus of early retirements at every level of government, local, state, and federal. I don't know, did you have COVID retirements? No. We did at the county. We offered a retirement package, and the state certainly did. It's driven up our error rate. Now, I don't have county by county error rate, so I can't share with you what ours is. And obviously, we will be working as hard as we can to reduce that. But the total impact for SNAP is going to be $6.9 million a year. That's $6.9 million a year that Ulster County taxpayers are going to have to pick up to make sure people are fed. and there will be a work requirement. And I want to show you a little picture of who takes SNAP. By the way, I'm sorry about this graph. I know that it bleeds over on the bottom category. This is cribbed directly from USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, so I couldn't modify the graph. But the point I wanted to make is that SNAP households primarily contain either seniors or children. And what that means is that these are the families that are hungry that we are supporting with these funds. There are going to be work requirements with SNAP, and our understanding from a fellow county in New York State, Erie County, is projecting that they're going to have to hire 36 new caseworkers just to monitor SNAP work eligibility. Now, Erie County is a lot bigger than we are. We're only about 20% of the size, but that would mean we're hiring 7 to 8 new caseworkers in social services just to monitor SNAP work requirements. I want to talk about Medicaid for a minute. And by the way, there are handouts over there. When you're leaving, you want this PowerPoint, you can take the handout, you can go to our website. It's up on there already. But come 2027, there's going to be a requirement that you work at least 80 hours a month for either in a job, in a service capacity, or going to school. And the counties will be responsible for monitoring that eligibility and monitoring that work requirement. Now, work requirements to me sound pretty good, right? We want you to go to school or volunteer or work. That doesn't sound terrible. But I want you to know that this is perceived in Washington as a way to cut Medicaid because we know people will fail the work requirements, okay? We know for a fact people are going to fail the work requirements. We are going to have to staff up. You all as taxpayers are going to have to pay more caseworkers to monitor work requirements for this. And my question to you is, where are people going to work? I think this is something that we really need to think about in county government. Like, can we set up programs that streamline recipients getting to a job, a volunteer opportunity, or school? But in Ulster County, it's going to require a lot more administrative oversight. And you can see New York State is estimating it's going to cost $500 million just to train on these requirements. We are also going to lose coverage for approximately 2 million New Yorkers. And there are specific Affordable Care Act programs, coverage areas that you will lose eligibility under. And I'm going to give you an example. When you go on to the healthcare marketplace and you choose a plan, if you are in that category where you are making too much money for Medicaid, but not that much money to afford a high cost plan, you are eligible for something called the Essential Plan in New York State. In Ulster County, we have 9,889 people as of April on the Essential Plan. That is 5.4% of Ulster County residents are on that Essential Plan. What is going to happen is, first of all, anyone who is either holding a green card or not a citizen will be kicked off that plan for certain. For the other people on that plan, what we are going to see is premiums are going to be driven way up because the federal government will not be subsidizing those premiums. That could mean $100 a month for a current Essential Plan enrollee. So this is going to create a big impact. We think that could be between 30 and 40% per individual. Now, it turns out that about 31% increase for the residents of Ulster County who are on this Essential Plan. What happens when people lose health insurance? And this is the part that I think is really the most important part to capture. They don't stop getting sick. They just stop getting things like preventative care. So the concern is that they're not going to be getting, going to the doctor in advance, getting the annual physical, getting checked for heart disease, diabetes, and these things. And then what's going to happen is a health crisis will occur for that individual at some point, maybe, and they will wind up going to the hospital, to the emergency room. Hospitals have to treat. They are not allowed to turn you away. This is going to create a gap for the hospital in terms of revenue versus costs. And this is where the concern for rural hospitals comes in. We are very concerned about rural hospitals because of this. So it's fine to think about it. I think to myself, well, I'm not on Medicaid. It's not affecting me or my family. But if my family is going to a hospital that is at risk, then my care is going to be impacted. And I think this is the concern that many people have in the healthcare industry. Is there anybody here in the healthcare industry? Okay, so yeah. I'm going to spend another minute on Medicaid. I want to talk about a couple of other things that are ticking along. These are changes that are already decided, that were decided in the reconciliation bill. Right now, we actually in New York State tax every single transaction that's a Medicaid transaction with a provider, and then we pool that money together, and then we subsidize those providers with that money. I know it's like only in New York could we be this weird, right? We're like, we're going to tax you and then we're going to give you money back, but it allows us to support hospitals that really have a lot of lower income patients coming and may not have the resources, or may not have the philanthropy, or may not have the grant making, or may not have, a lot of private insurance patients coming. So we're going to lose that. And that means we're going to lose federal matching funds of several $2 to $3 billion. And that money is used to supplement nursing homes. So I want to talk about nursing homes. I'm going to talk about it again in a minute. When you look at nursing home patients, residents, 90% of nursing home patients are on Medicaid. Yes, they may be Medicare eligible, but Medicare doesn't pay long-term costs. It's Medicaid that kicks in. Uncompensated and indigent healthcare costs will no longer be covered. It's really going to strain providers. And we had adopted at the federal level a safe staffing ratio for nursing homes. The reconciliation bill got rid of that. So, I don't know if you've had a loved one in a nursing home, if you've been worried about staffing requirements, but it's a very challenging environment for people to work. And we really need to make sure there's appropriate numbers of people there. And then this last bullet that I want to mention, actually the second to last, is that it's going to limit what we can pay above the Medicare rate to a nursing home. So like somebody could be there, but they're getting Medicare and Medicaid. Right now, we will push money through Medicaid to pay that daily room rate and pay that skilled nursing. That will not be available. We will be capped at that lower rate. That's going to make it very hard for nursing homes. And then finally, Planned Parenthood will no longer be eligible for Medicaid. And much, much more. I'm just trying to summarize because it's really a lot of, all right, so I'm going to talk about broadband for a second. We hear that broadband through the BEAD program is on tap, that it is going to happen. There have been some changes to the program. Now, this is the federal program that we anticipate is going to roll out fiber everywhere. It's taking longer than we would like, but we are hearing that it is going to survive and it is going to be funded. What has changed in that program is that we understand that they have loosened the requirements for technology. Now, what we will tell you, and I want to acknowledge right now, someone I didn't acknowledge before, who's been a champion in broadband, a member of the Claryville Fire Department, a resident of Denning, Jenny Lee. Jenny, where are you? Jenny, you're getting applause on Zoom. I just want you to know. Jenny is the chair of the Ulster County Citizens Commission for Digital Inclusion. And that group has been meeting and convening since 2022. They mapped all broadband in the county. They submitted challenges at the state and federal level. There were places where the FCC in New York State said, oh, it's served over there in Claryville. It's served over here. No, it's not served. So she handled the challenge process. And also through connections that the Citizens Commission made, we were able to encourage Margaretville Telephone, who's sitting in the room. They were running redundant fiber down 28. They decided, oh, we can swing through Phoenicia and serve Phoenicia. So there have been a lot of wonderful things that have come out of that. And we have just been hoping and waiting for this federal money to come that will support rolling out fiber everywhere. Now, fiber is considered the best technology that you can have, better than Starlink. And we know Starlink is a good thing. Like I talked to Senator Oberacker, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, and he told me and Jenny Lee, I don't have internet at my house. I don't have broadband at my house. I was like, you are the perfect advocate. He uses Starlink. So it is serving homes here, but it is not the best technology. The federal rules we anticipate are going to be loosened to allow Starlink. And Starlink could be cheaper in some locations. That's fine if there's places that we can't run fiber, but we would prefer fiber. We have heard through NACO, the National Association of Counties, that the NTIA, the National Telecommunications Information Administration Digital Equity Act, that money through there has been canceled and terminated. So that is a bummer. That is not BEAD. That is not the big federal rollout. This is a separate program. And then the last program that I want to mention is the Reconnect program. And that's where I want to note Margaretville's program and their proposed project. I hope you guys don't mind. I'm going to put a map on the screen. Okay. Margaretville. So here's what happened. The Digital Commission, the Citizens Commission began, conversing with Margaretville because they were doing great things. And also, by the way, when we looked at the mapping, we said, how come Hardenburg is 100% served? Like, what up with that? Like, why not Denning? Why not Shandaken? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because Margaretville Telephone about 5 or 10 years ago decided they were going to replace all their plain old telephone lines with fiber. And they rolled it out in Hardenburg and the entire town is served. So the commission introduced them to a potential funding stream that is outside of the ones that we talked about through the USDA Rural Development Program, which is made to serve rural communities. And I would say we're a pretty rural community right here, right? Seems like we should be eligible. And lo and behold, they have this Reconnect program that rolls out fiber and pays for technical assistance. And this program awarded a grant to Margaretville Telephone to do the engineering for this project. This is a map of what the project would be. I'm sorry if you live in Sundown. This project does not cover Sundown, but we do anticipate that Sundown will be served through the other federal program. Fingers crossed. I don't have the number of houses, so I want to just pause and see if anyone from MTC can say anything about the number of houses that would be served. And I know it will also serve YMCA.
Thank you, Mark.
Glenn
Thank you
Faulkner.
For the nice words. Pleasure to be here. And yes, this has been a conversation several years in the making. At this point, the project would serve approximately 125 unserved homes. And again, it's the main feed, if you will, is coming from the Galagher Valley, coming from the town of Shandaken. So it's going down past the YMCA into Claryville and then back out to the unserved road down. I guess it's the Denning Road down. Right, yeah, 4. The area in the middle is not shaded in yellow, had to be excluded from funding because that is served by another provider. And so for those residents or businesses in the area there, that would have, folks would have a choice of providers. We would look to provide service if there was an interest there. Obviously, it is also about 114 homes in that segment as well.
In the blue area?
In the blue area.
Okay.
We're sitting on the blue area right now, right?
You're in the blue area, yes.
So service sucks. The upload speed does not support a lot of modern programs.
So to Mark's point, fiber, this will be a fiber optic network. And if there's any questions now or after, I'll be glad to answer them. We did get the technical assistance, which allowed us to do the engineering, which allowed us to create the application to the USDA. There's not a lot of money. The money has been allocated, my understanding. March has, I'm impressed with the homework that you've done here, but there is, my understanding is the money has been allocated for the construction reconnect loan. It's not a large sum of money, next $25 million nationally. There were 30 applications, roughly 30 applications submitted into the program, of which MTC had one of those for about $1.8 million. So that's kind of the concept of what the project is, but the technical assistance provided the funding to hire the engineering and the consultants to do the application. The application was submitted in a couple months ago. We have a call with the USDA on Thursday. We hope to hear something by this fall, one way or the other. And that's really all the information I have.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Yes. So our understanding is that this round 5 reconnect money was under review by the administration in Washington, but it had been funded, it had been appropriated, and we do expect it to flow. We will be working both with the congressman's office as well as other ways that we can push for it. I'm going to talk about that at the end of my presentation, like what can we all do, right? Here I am giving a lot of complaints, but I'm about action, so I'm going to get to that in a minute. Before I do that, I want to just share one more piece of information with you about what we're hearing in terms of proposed changes in Washington. It's confusing because the reconciliation bill sort of sets the parameters, right? And they can identify cuts there, but it doesn't appropriate funds. And Eric, if I'm mistaken in the way I'm speaking, please correct me. But what we're going to be seeing is we're going to be seeing appropriations bills in Washington that actually set funding for the federal budget going forward. Up to this point, we've been still essentially, continuing under what was the Biden administration budget because they would just extend it while they were still debating things. Going forward, we're going to be seeing discussion about, this new set of appropriations bills. And I want to share with you some of the things that we know are being discussed. Before I get into that, I also want to mention, I see both houses of Congress pushing back on what the administration proposed. There are changes that are being pushed in both the House and the Senate that are not exactly what the Trump administration wants. So I think we need to all think to ourselves, this is an opportunity for us to speak with our elected officials in Washington of both parties and of any state. We're stuck in New York with the representatives that we have, and in our area, the representatives in the minority. But I don't think that should stop us from reaching out to people's offices who might be committee chairs or subcommittee chairs, where we can just say, hey, I'm a constituent. I live in this town. I want to see these services continue. So here are some of the things that have been on the line. We have seen potential elimination. They want to call for a complete elimination of community development block grants, of community service block grants. We've seen elimination proposed for HEAP, that's the Home Energy Assistance Program, cuts to FEMA being discussed, cuts to USDA funding being discussed, cuts to transportation funding, cuts to Section 8 housing vouchers, and cuts to renewable energy programs. I want to go back and talk about this broadband project in relation to this. I still think that this project is going to be the kind of thing that people want to fund, because when you look at USDA and you look at agriculture, one of the biggest expenditures there is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And this is one of the reasons why you saw such big cuts there. What happened was each committee in Congress was told, go find X billion dollars of cuts in your program area. Well, guess what? USDA doesn't have that much money. They're not spending that much money on broadband. They're spending a lot of money on SNAP. Programs that are rural development programs, there are conversations happening in Washington right now about preserving those programs. And if people like us advocate for them, we are going to see a win there. So we need to keep that in mind. When I say these are being proposed, it's just under discussion. It's not a definite. It's people like us who can make the difference. And so I want to talk about some action items. Elected officials can advocate for funding in Washington and Albany, because the biggest impacts that we're going to see are when New York State decides what to do with their federal cuts, right? Big Medicaid cuts are coming. Are they going to shove those costs down onto the county, or are they going to absorb them in Albany? So we need both Washington and Albany. We need to be talking there, and we need elected officials to advocate. And also, we as citizens can affect this by calling our elected officials, right? I mean, we can put pressure on them to let them know what's important to us. And look, everybody in this room has different priorities, but I know that broadband is a priority for every single person in this room. So we need to provide factual information when we're talking. I had seen a presentation earlier where somebody said that HEAP had been cut. Home Assistance Energy Program had been cut. It has not been cut. So I'm really trying to share with you information that is up to date, that is true. there are two reasons for this. One, I don't want to create panic or scare people if it's unnecessary. And two, if you are talking to Supervisor Brooks or you are talking to Congressman Riley or Senator Oberrocker, and you think that something's been cut when it hasn't, then you're not going to advocate for it continuing. So I want to make sure that you have complete information and that you're sharing out correct information to your colleagues and your friends and family when you're talking about what's happening. And it's confusing because there's a lot of things changing at the same time. What's going to be important at the local level is us all identifying what our priorities are, right? I know at the county level, we're going to be spending a lot of time thinking about what is a priority for us. I'm going to give you an example. We just adopted an arts and culture plan for Ulster County. And you know, Ulster County is a very artsy place, right? And we usually allocate a small amount of funding to arts grants every year. If we are having trouble feeding residents in Ulster County, that amount of arts grants funding may be reduced, right? We've added positions in the Comptroller's office. Those positions may be on the chopping block. And I want you to know that that County Executive Jen Metzger, when she asked people to put together their budgets in county government, asked for a 5% cut in anything that was non-personnel related. So we're already beginning to think about how do we contract, and you may need to do this at the local level. Now, Denning does not get federal money, but Denning does get state money. And I raise this issue because if the state budget takes a giant whack, which we believe it will, between Medicaid and SNAP reductions, as well as other cuts that we're seeing, we could see these resources that come to the town level be impacted. Denning received $302,000 in transportation funding. I'm looking at the 23 budget, David, so I'm a year behind. $91,000 in unrestricted state aid. Neversink received $573,000 in transportation aid and $12,000 in unrestricted. This is 2023 numbers. We could lose those funds at the town level. What does that mean for us? It means we're going to have to really think about at the town and county level what our priorities are. And I think that's going to take citizens working with elected officials and town board members to say, like, this one thing is really important, we cannot get rid of it, or these programs are really important. And we're going to have to reduce spending. I mean, I think, you know, we've had an expansion, at least in county government. When I was elected controller, our budget was like 330 million. It is like over 440 million now. That's a lot. That's a huge addition. We are going to have to spend less. And if we know from community members what they feel like is important or what they feel like is less important, it will help us make wise decisions. Now, I don't make any funding decisions, so you can tell me what your priorities are. I will not be able to act on them. We do not make funding decisions in the Comptroller's office. We are the fiscal watchdog. So we're watching the tax dollars, making sure that they're being spent in the way that they're appropriated, and you know that we're getting what we paid for. And then lastly, we may need to identify new revenues. And I raise this because I'm hearing a lot of conversation, particularly in Albany and Kingston and New York City, about raising taxes on wealthy people, about raising corporate taxes. I know I, at the county level, am always thinking about, are we getting the revenues we should be? We just finished up an audit on occupancy tax. It will be out soon. There's an article today, it just broke in the Daily Freeman a few hours ago, a report that we did on cannabis revenues. We're going to make budget in cannabis revenues, but the state is doing a very bad job of communicating with us and sharing data about how much revenue they collected. And we are not feeling very trustful that we're getting what we should be. So that'll be our role, is sort of like, are we getting the dollars we should be? But really, we're going to have to get much more careful about what we're spending. And that's not all bad, because we want to make sure we're spending money efficiently, right? I mean, we all do this in our household, where every once in a while you go through and you're saying, I'm quitting the Paramount subscription, I'm quitting the Netflix subscription. You know, there are times where we look at our household budget and we say, these things are not necessary, and I'm going to contract what I'm spending there, right? But we still need to keep food on the table and a roof over everybody's head. And that's the part that I'm most concerned about as I look at these cuts, is how are we going to make sure people are fed? How are we going to make sure hospitals stay open? So that's kind of where the focus for us is making sure that, you know, we still take care of the things that we need to. I'm going to just put up my last slide. open to taking questions if you guys have some. I hope that you will ask questions. Please ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. I just want to say that right now. I have found, especially if you're new to this kind of information, a lot of times when people ask a question or they're nervous, first of all, somebody will be nervous about asking a question, they ask it anyway, and then the person turns and says, thank you so much, David, for asking that. I was afraid to ask. So somebody else is probably thinking the same question. And then the other thing is that questions are what drive like better insight. And I have seen situations where the newcomer at a board table, maybe you've had this on your town board, sits down, looks at the budget and goes, why do we do this? And then all of a sudden everybody goes, I don't know, we always did it that way. So if you have a question, I really hope you'll ask. This QR code is on those paper flyers over there, so you're welcome to take it. It will link you directly to our federal funds report. I hope that you'll all check out our website because we're always sharing data and information there. And I'm really hoping to answer any questions people have in the room. And by the way, there'll probably be questions I don't have the answer to, in which case I'll take a note and I'll get back to you. So thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this very hard subject. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Somebody's got one.
So, the funding that's coming for broadband, which bucket is that? And is there a bucket for broadband that comes out of education?
So the question, I'm going to repeat your question for the people on Zoom because I don't think they can hear you. The question was what the broadband project we were talking about, what bucket of funding is that coming out of? And is there a education broadband funding bucket? The last question I don't know the answer to, sir. There might very well be in the education department money for that. I'm not aware of that. I'm going to have to look into that and get back to you. The bucket that we're talking about for the broadband project we talked about today is through the USDA. It is actually through the Rural Development Program of the United States Department of Agriculture, because they have a whole component of their operations and their work, their program that is to benefit rural communities. And there's a recognition, a strong recognition that broadband really is necessary for rural communities. That's why I say I think it's probably going to be protected. I also want to note that New York State reopened the broadband, the BEAD application process. And prior to this last round, there had not been a vendor that bid on the entirety of Ulster County. In this case, now we are understanding that Verizon is making a bid on the entire county. If this project that we showed you goes forward, they will not run service there. But that's good news for us. So, we are expecting that program will go forward, but I will say, I think that the rural development money is a better bet because it's old money that was appropriated already. There's an application in the pipeline. And I just think that there's a lot of voices all over the country speaking about rural development. By the way, there are senators and congressmen all over the country, red state, blue state, talking about broadband. Like everyone wants broadband. So I do feel like, and I hope and pray that we see that go forward. Yeah. Yeah.
From the Zoom room, have you heard anything about Health Alliance Hospital closing as a result of these cuts?
So interesting you should raise that question. The ask was, have we heard anything about Health Alliance in hospital in Kingston closing as a result of these cuts? I have not heard anything directly about Health Alliance. However, I have read that there is a list of 180 hospitals in New York State that are in grave jeopardy. I do not have the list. I cannot get the list. I want the list. If anybody gets the list, send it to me. Who has it? Exactly. I do not know. It was it was an analysis that was done by maybe the New York State Hospital Association. And I think they're afraid to put it out because they don't want to jeopardize any current hospital funding that any of them are receiving. I am worried about Health Alliance Hospital. I am worried about Margaretville Hospital, which is of the same system. And I'm worried about Ellenville Regional Hospital. So I am concerned, but I don't have any hard data about how they would be affected. And I think one way to get to that is really to look at, and we probably will wind up taking a deeper dive on this, how many people are they serving that are Medicaid? There's a lot of questions there. How many people are they serving that are undocumented? I don't have those answers. So we don't know yet. Is there any other questions on the Zoom?
Not yet.
Okay, great. Yeah,
So back to the map, of the,
yeah, let's go
where the
back.
blue and the yellow. I'm like trying to locate our house. It seems that that yellow past the blue is just really a straight shot up Denning Road to the end. Am I correct about that? And doesn't really splinter off into any of the side roads that?
Where's he talking about, David? Show me
Like
here.
Red Hill Road, where would Red Hill Road be?
I think.
Okay,
Yeah, he's talking about there's a couple of Red Hill Road.
Okay.
Comes up here, and there's Birch Road.
That's straight up to T-zone.
T-side.
Right, so it's, I guess I'm curious, like, on that particular part of the road.
yeah,
Roads that really need it.
Are
Are
spurs.
the ones that splinter off it, the homes that really need it. What's that? And that road probably already mostly has broadband because the homes tend to be a little bit closer to the road. I'm curious. What-
They don't, these homes do not have broadband
The
right now.
homes don't, but what I'm saying is, those homes on that road, the homes tend to sit closer to the road.
Right. And I think what you'll see, and we see this in other projects, once the backbone is there, it's maybe a possibility.
Uh-huh.
And that without this, we can't get to that. And by the way, this is true for cellular too, by the way,
Right.
because you
So
cannot
it
have
needs
a,
to run up a major artery before it goes out.
you need a backbone before you can
Yeah.
put cellular towers or connect those side roads. So, yeah, I don't know.
And if I could just add.
Yeah, please.
There are some roads, I guess, south of this map where it is served by another provider and
Whoops.
some of the side roads are unserved.
Yeah.
It wasn't feasible, practical, cost effective to overbuild another provider just to serve a few of those. So my suggestion would be there, and we can help advocate for that as well. If you're in that situation, we can work with the other service provider to the best of our ability to encourage them to serve that. So that's the relationship.
Yeah, but for instance, the situation that I have, this is my neighbor, she's close to the road, but I push back a quarter mile from there, and there's no way they're gonna run it back.
If you're along one of those yellow areas, that the roads that are, the homes that are, the 125 homes that have been designated is what we're committed to.
Yeah.
Obviously, that opens up a conversation. If you're far off the road, then we're just that much closer. And I don't know that there's many homes along those that are not served unless.
Yeah, there's just a lot of roads that branch off in this direction.
Yeah, okay.
Right,
Yeah.
so, and we all live on those roads,
Right.
and those are the ones that,
Okay.
yes, on those roads, the homes closest to them get spectrum. Anything that's stepped a little bit further down a road,
Yeah.
they will not run it further down the road.
So if you have a long driveway.
We have, yes,
Yeah, I'm the first house on that, I got spectrum.
I have to do Starlink because it's cost prohibitive there, so they say it's $15,000 to run the line to our house. Yeah, from Spectrum.
Right. Before we go to the next question, I want to just acknowledge that Drew, how do you say your last name, Drew?
Pinella.
Panella has been our audio visual tech here. We want him to have broadband. Thank you so much. I see that. And then before I go to that question, I just also want to tell the people online what we were hearing. There was a question about spurs off of the area that Margaretville is committing to serve. And two ideas came forward. One, there's another provider in part of that region, and Margaretville is happy to work with them and advocate to them to run off of their fiber for those homes that are off the road, up on the spurs. And then also, without the backbone, we can't serve them at all. So hopefully it will encourage that.
Yeah, my question was a brief one about the backbone, the blue areas. Presumably, you've got around the fiber optic, if you're providing fiber optic service to the end of the road that currently is served by cable. So you're running fiber optic along the blue to get to the yellow, right?
But USDA is not paying for that portion.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to actually.
But in
stream
theory, in the future, that road will be able to tap into the fiber optic.
That is.
You will have a choice is
Right.
what will happen. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Cell towers, any updates?
I have no updates that are local to Denning on cell towers. I know that the potential cost of a tower is like a very expensive lift, right? $1 million.
Yes, we're still trying to work on 2 in Denning, but it's very, very difficult. And I really, while I got a moment, I really want to thank Marge and Jenny because they have been incredible on this. What you see, they have worked tremendous amount of hours on this just to get us here with Glenn and Cambria.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it, and everybody should, because they've done a tremendous amount behind the scenes work to get us to even this point.
Thank you, David.
So,
I just want to say on the cell tower thing, you know, the public safety part of
Yes.
that thing is super important, because our coverage is a disaster.
Yes.
All
Yes.
across Valley, you can't get reception.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dead zones,
Yes.
even down here.
Yeah.
Dead zones, you can't.
Yes.
communicate correctly.
We are working on cellular. The commission is, Jenny, you had a question.
Sure. New York State is working with Ulster County, actually using Ulster County to drive test cellular. We had our biggest, our last meeting on Thursday. The first was brought up by Emergency Services of Ulster County for Cross Valley, Denning Road, and Peter's. Director from Wireless and Cellular looked it up. Yeah, it is important. I stayed to make sure. Make sure.
Thank you. Let me just tell the folks online what was said. New York State is using Ulster County as a model to test cellular. And they actually did like a drive plan around Ulster County. And when we were on a call with New York State Connect All program, the emergency services department for the county, Steve Peterson, said, what about Denning, Sundown, Pegamoose, and the area around the YMCA? So, and Connect All knew that it was a situation. They're actually driving around and testing out cellular in our county, which is amazing. And we worked with town supervisors early on to sort of say what all the problem areas are. You want to know where the problems are, just ask your town supervisor, because he gets all the complaints, so he knows. Lainey, did you have a question?
Should we be concerned about funding for the federal UCAT service, for the free UCAT service?
So question from the Zoom was, should we be worried about UCAT service? I do think that we could be concerned about transportation funding being reduced. I am concerned about that. And I do think that that could impact Ulster County's transit system right now. It's a free system where you do not have to pay to ride. And it actually, we got more money when we made it free. I don't know if you guys know that, but what happened was there was debate about making it free. They said, we can't do that because our federal money depends on. When they looked into it, they realized, oh, the federal money depends on ridership, not fares collected. If we make it free, more people ride, we get more funding for it. So it's increased significantly and it's been a huge win. And I hope that it can continue. Yeah. I know there was another question over here. Was that you?
Yeah, I had, sorry, not wasn't questions. This might be actually more a question for David. The focus on broadband and accessibility for people. This meeting is great. And the fact that you guys are doing it, I assume it's Zoom.
Yeah.
Allowing people who can't make it because their work schedule,
Yes.
you know, care for people in their family, what have you. I think that it would be a great idea for the town to consider doing this with your public meetings, so that people can keep tabs on what's happening within our town and the great work you guys are doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
If you were here the hour before the meeting, you might not say that because you would see us running around trying to get it right. Yeah.
I think that most towns do that.
Yeah. Sir.
There's a downside to cell towers. Nothing to do with you or anything like that. But the more people who drop their landline, the more Verizon wants to get out of that business.
Yes.
And once they get out of that business, you lose the most reliable 911 connection. No guarantee the tower is going to be up 24/7, 365.
I fully agree. So there was a comment, the fellow from Neversink was saying that if we, the more cell towers, the more cell connectivity, the fewer people keep their plain old telephone lines, POTS lines, And when that happens, then Verizon doesn't want to maintain them. And then we lose the most robust and reliable communication system, especially for 911 emergencies. And that is absolutely true. I'm very concerned about that. Actually, Jenny and I were just looking over a payphone had been installed in another rural county. Like they actually created a new payphone. I worked with Chuck Perez at the Big Indian Fire Company in 2012 to save the last payphone in Ulster County. And Verizon told us, nobody uses that phone. And we said, all right, pull the calls from that phone. 20 calls from that phone in a year, 15 to 911. That's what it was used for. So, I don't know. And, you see sometimes on highways that they have call boxes. We do need to think about what happens when we don't have cellular. And we've had other town supervisors. Jim Safranco from Town of Olive tells us during the ice storm, he could not get online through the cell tower, even to make calls because it was overloaded, because everybody was trying to use it at the same time. So that is definitely an issue.
But Verizon is not maintaining.
No.
I have a landline and Verizon, and it's in terrible shape.
Yeah.
Here, and they refused, they told us
Yes.
to no longer maintain landlines.
Yes. Yes. If they win the bid, so the comment was that Verizon is not maintaining landlines. If Verizon wins BEAD money, they will do what Margaretville did in Hardenberg, and they will replace those plain old telephone lines with fiber. Yeah. There was a question. Yeah.
It's not a question that I have the same situation. I've been struggling with Verizon since May. I have unlimited service. I pay extra to have a copper line in addition to my cell phone that goes through my computer. But I pay it because I have disabilities. I can't crawl over my neighbor's house and fire.
Right.
That's impossible. And I tell this every time I get on the phone with Verizon, and they seem unable to maintain this.
So for those constituents who are having Verizon problems, please take the flyer, send me an email, because we do have a Verizon Government Affairs contact and we can raise this issue with them. Yeah, I can't promise they'll fix it, but we can at least complain about it. And we have found like complaining works.
Pixie, give me a call too and let me know your number and everything. And yeah, I can definitely help out.
Yeah.
I've been composing a letter for the Public Service Commission.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, shouldn't they be part of this discussion?
I mean, it's not considered a utility. Verizon is not, which doesn't make sense to me. Okay. I don't make the rules. I just report them, but it's not considered a utility. It's not regulated the same way. And it's challenging. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Wait, maybe I'm wrong about that. Hold on a second.
Phone is a utility.
The phone is a utility. It's Spectrum that's not a utility. Yes, you're right. Yes. Yes, we can complain to Public Service Commission. Yeah. See, you got to admit when you're wrong, right? Always learning new information. Any other questions? Yeah.
You didn't mention about education. Is there any funding cuts?
There are proposed cuts in education, massive cuts. We're eliminating the Department of Education in the way that it's been. So we're going to see less advocacy for certainly people with disabilities, which I think, the federal Department of Education has been very active in ensuring disability services through education. And there are as strong education cuts proposed. Yeah.
So are you hearing the state?
I don't have numbers yet. And I think we're waiting to see what happens in these appropriation bills. Yeah. Yeah. Very concerning though. Yeah.
I'll just add the after school funding. So chopping one in particular, it cut by 70%, and so that's not sustainable. Yeah, that's the expectation. Any reliance on federal or 21st century learning grants on and that's not clear yet how that they'll be consolidated, but so severe.
Yeah. I don't know a lot about education, so I'm sorry I excluded that, but great points, Margaret, really great points. It was a question on education funding, and Riel from YMCA was sharing some of those funding streams, after school care. I know that Head Start has been preserved for the moment, which is really important. Yeah. Any other questions? So here's what I want to do. We're going to break. We can, Charles and I will be here. My deputy Charles is able, if you're interested in checking your name, he can check on the state controller's unclaimed funds website to see if there's money sitting there in your name, and then we can send you away with information about how to get it. You know, there's, I don't know, Charles, what's the amount of unclaimed funds they're sitting on? Something like billions and billions of dollars, okay? And some of that might be yours. It might only be $12, but gosh darn it, we need that $12. So I encourage you, if you're interested, to stay. You can always do it from home or from your phone and look it up too, just Unclaimed Funds New York. But I encourage you to do that. And we'll be here circulating if you want to chat one-on-one or have a conversation. I super appreciate all of you coming. I want to just, again, thank David, thank the Claryville Fire Department. I want to thank Drew and Jenny Lee for setting this up. I want to thank the Denning Democrats for even inviting me and asking me to do this, because I think it's a real opportunity. I thank the town board for coming, and Neversink folks for coming over. I really appreciate you guys making the trip. And thank you, Margaretville Telephone. And thank you, Eric Paul, for coming and sweating it out with us here. And we are so going to be back to you on so many things. We just appreciate you taking the time and this way connecting with constituents here. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Zoomers, for coming. Have a great night. Bye.
I'm very active on the county level. I won't go to all the meetings and speak up all the time.
Oh.